Hi kids! It's time for me to do the honors biology version of the processes of cellular respiration and photosynthesis, but we're going to do photosynthesis first. Now the equation for photosynthesis is 6H2O plus 6CO2 plus sun yields glucose plus 6O2. And so photosynthesis has two steps to it. The first step to photosynthesis is called the light reaction. It is called that because it requires light to happen. So we put in sunlight, and we also put in water to the light reaction. So I've taken care of these two up here. Water goes away, sun goes away. And so when we combine those two things together, we end up with some oxygens. And I will get my poster to show you on the poster how that happens. You should be able to see that, sort of. So when photosynthesis happens, it requires a light photon, a particle of light energy right here. And so when the light comes in, it hits these thylakoids. The thylakoids are what contains the chlorophyll in them. When light hits them, the thylakoids get excited and they start to shake. When they start to shake, they lose an electron. That electron gets added to NADP plus to become NADPH. And then we have to replace that electron that was lost. And so that is where water comes in down here. When water comes in, you split it in a couple different ways. You pull the hydrogens away from the oxygens, and when you take the hydrogens off, you split those even further. You pull one electron out to replace the one that we added here. And then the protons go floating out into the stroma, which is just the fluid inside the chloroplast. You get a lot of H's in there. When you get enough H's in there is when ATP synthase comes in. And that is when, you get a dark color so you can see it. ATP synthase is my little generator. Looks like this. It's in the thylakoid membrane. When we have enough hydrogens on the outside of the thylakoid, there's a high concentration of them, and they want to move away from each other, from high to low. So they move in to the thylakoid. When they move in, they turn this generator, which is called ATP synthase. And when they turn that, they produce an ATP. So not only have we produced we produced oxygen, we have also produced NADPH because we took our electron away and made that. And then we also produce ATP from the spinning of this generator. That's the light reaction. Sunlight hits a thylakoid. The thylakoid is what contains the chlorophyll. The chlorophyll gets excited, starts shaking. When it gets excited, it loses an electron. We need to replace that electron because that electron has gone on to create NADPH. In order to replace it, water goes in. When the water goes in, you split it in a couple different ways. You take the H's away from the O's. When you have O's by themselves, it becomes molecular oxygen, and that is one of the products of photosynthesis. So that just goes out the stomata, it's done for. And then we have the H's to take care of. The electrons go to replace the one that was lost when the chlorophyll got excited. That's where the electron goes. The protons go out into the stroma. When there's enough of them, they have to go back in through ATP synthase and be able to turn the generator and produce your ATP, which is right here. And then we have the dark reaction, which is part 2 of photosynthesis. Dark reaction is also called the Calvin cycle, right? Calvin in parentheses. They are interchangeable. And so oxygen's done for. We took care of it. We produced it over here. And then we also produce NADPH and ATP. Those things are required to go on to the dark reaction. So we get NADPH plus ATP. And then we take care of our other reactant, which is carbon dioxide. Those two things get combined with carbon dioxide. What happens is you take the H off, You take the P off, you combine them with carbon dioxide. When you do that, you get a molecule of G3P, which is a 3-carbon sugar, an intermediate between this part of the dark reaction and producing glucose. G3P has 3 carbons in it. So when you put 2 G3Ps together, there's 6 carbons. And when you have 6 carbons together is when you get a glucose. Can you still see that? You can still see that. And so that is my dark reaction. The whole thing that happens is that we take NADPH and ATP that were produced in the light reaction. They move on to the dark reaction. They combine with carbon dioxide. When they combine with carbon dioxide, they shuffle and make a G3P. When 2 G3Ps combine with each other, they shuffle again and they make a glucose. That's photosynthesis. Light reaction. Sun goes in, water goes in. You put the electron from water into replacing the one from the chlorophyll. You put the proton from the water in the stroma, and then you put the oxygen out through the stomata. When all of these H's are here, they turn through the generator, spin it, they produce an ATP. The electron that we lost was used to make NADPH. So we've got those 2 things taken care of. Oxygen leaves. Those 2 move on to the dark reaction. The H from NADPH and the P from ATP combine with the carbon dioxide. When those combine, you get a G3P. When 2 G3Ps combine, then you get a glucose. That's photosynthesis. Moving forward. Oh, never did that. We made glucose in the dark reaction. Sorry, never crossed it out. Not perfect. And so now we go into respiration. Which has a similar chemical equation. Glucose goes in. Oxygen go in. 6 of them, in fact. And then we produce 6 waters and 6 carbon dioxides. And we also produce 36 ATP. Can you see that? Is the shadow in the way? You can sort of see that. You can watch this on big screen and then you'll be able to see it better. So this is my chemical equation for cellular respiration. Technically, there are 2 parts of cellular respiration, but part 2 of cellular respiration is divided into 2 more parts. So really, I like to say that cellular respiration has 3 parts. The first part of cellular respiration is called glycolysis. That's always part 1, no matter what is present. And then step 2, and then under step 2, we have letter A and letter B. Can you still see this? You can still see this. Okay. Step 1 is glycolysis. Glycolysis is the splitting of glucose. Since we are trying to split glucose, glucose is the thing that goes into glycolysis. So glucose is one of my reactants. Take care of it right here, get rid of it. Glucose has to get broken. In order to break glucose, we need 2 ATPs. When glucose gets broken, we get another different 3-carbon sugar, which is called pyruvate. In addition to the pyruvates, we produce 4 total ATP. But this is when we talked about the lemonade stand. If I require $5 to start a lemonade stand, and then I make $10 total, how much money do I really profit? I make $5 profit because 5 of my 10 that I made needed to go towards starting the lemonade stand. That's how this works. I need 2 ATP to start the process. I come out with 4 ATP. So really, I net 2 ATP. These 2 ATPs go on to contribute to the total that we need to make in this process. And so that is the first step. That's glycolysis. Glycolysis happens in the cytoplasm. Okay, I didn't tell you where the parts of photosynthesis happen, but you ought to know that. Light reaction happens in the thylakoids, dark reactions happen in the stroma. Backtrack, fast forward. Then, if oxygen is present, the second step to respiration is aerobic respiration. It is called aerobic respiration because it requires the presence of oxygen. If oxygen is not present, we have a different process, and I'm not going to talk about that today, but it's in your notes and it's pretty simple. Aerobic respiration has its own two parts. The first part of aerobic respiration is called the Krebs cycle. And so what we need, these two ATPs have gone away. We need these pyruvates to start the Krebs cycle. So they move over here. The pyruvate goes in and gets broken. When you break pyruvate, you release carbon dioxide, CO2. But remember we said the pyruvate has 3 carbons in it? Because pyruvate has 3 carbons, it has 3 carbons because it is 1/2 of glucose, and 1/2 of 6 is 3. Pyruvate has 3 carbons. Because of that, we can make 3 carbon dioxides because pyruvate has 3 carbons in it. And so, when we break the pyruvate and we release the 3 carbon dioxides, we also have some H's that we have to take care of. We haven't taken care of those H's yet. We need to take care of those. And so those H's get added on to produce NADH. Before respiration starts, we just have NAD+. And then it also gets added on to create FADH2. Same thing, before respiration starts, we just have FAD+. The hydrogens from pyruvate get added to those things in order to make NADH and FADH2. In addition to those two, we also release 2 more ATP. These also go here to add to the total. So we've made 4 ATP total. We need to make 36. And because we've already made 4, we only need to make 32 in the last step. The last step of cellular respiration is called the electron transport chain. Also known as the ETC is what I like to call it. And so the electron transport chain, backtrack, we took care of carbon dioxide, we produced that, we're done for, carbon dioxide's done with. We've also produced some of our ATPs, and so now we have to do the remainders. We have NADH and FADH2 go on to the electron transport chain. And then those also at the very end of the electron transport chain get combined with oxygen. The electron transport chain is responsible for pulling off energy and hydrogens from these 2 molecules. When you pull off H's and combine them with O's, we end up with water. Because when you put H's and O's together, we get H2O, or water. And that is one of our products. Oxygen went in, water comes out. But the other thing that we do is some more H's, we haven't pulled off all of these H's, some more H's get combined in ATP synthase. Remember we have that another little generator? We have lots of hydrogens on the outside. And they want to go from a high concentration into a low concentration. So they pass across ATP synthase, just like they did in photosynthesis. And when they pass across, ATP synthase spins, and when it spins, it produces enough to get our remaining 32 ATP out of it. Out comes the poster to explain this part. So here's my poster, and here's my mitochondria. Glycolysis is the first step. That happens in the cytoplasm. Glycolysis, the only thing that happens is that glucose gets broken. It needs 2 ATP to get broken. When you break it, you produce 2 pyruvate, which are right here, and you produce 4 ATP. But like we said, you really only produce 2 ATP because you've canceled out these 2 that we had to use to start it. And then the pyruvates go on to the mitochondrial matrix, which is the space in between, I'm having trouble with my finger, space in between this mitochondria and all of its crazy wiggles. The pyruvates go into the mitochondrial matrix and they get broken again. When pyruvate gets broken, you release carbon dioxides, approximately 3 of them because pyruvate has 3 carbons in it. You also produce FADH from the hydrogens in the pyruvate, and you produce NADH from the hydrogens in pyruvate. In addition, you also release 2 ATP, which again go on to add to our final total. At this point, we've made 4 of them. And then the NADH and FADH2 go on to the cristae, which is the inner membrane. This is these little foldy things. And they go down the electron transport chain. The electron transport chain is a system of enzymes. Every enzyme that these 2 molecules come into contact with They get energy pulled off of them. They get hydrogens pulled off of them. Some of those hydrogens get combined with oxygen at the very end to produce water, which we have down here. When you combine H's and O's, you get water. The remainder of the hydrogens go outside of the mitochondria into the cytoplasm. You have so many H's that they want to move from an area of high concentration to an area of low concentration. And so they have to travel through ATP synthase. When they do, ATP synthase spins, and they get the remaining 32 ATP. I have hiccups. When ATP synthase spins, it produces the remaining 32 ATP. So, step 1, input glucose, output pyruvate and some ATP. Step 2, input pyruvate, output carbon dioxide, NADH, FADH2, and some more ATP. That's 4 different things that are required, that are produced in this step. That's a lot. Then, step 3, NADH and FADH2 move on. They move down the electron transport chain. They get energy pulled off of them. They get electrons pulled off of them. Or they get hydrogens, I mean, sorry. When those hydrogens reach the end of the chain, oxygen's at the end waiting for them. And when you combine hydrogens and oxygens, you get water. Water is one of our products, and so we've crossed that out. And then, with the remainder of the H's that were not used to make water, you spin the generator and you produce hydrogens. Keep in mind that respiration happens every time that we breathe. And so we exhale the products of respiration, which are water and carbon dioxide. Everyone knows that we breathe out carbon dioxide. You also know if you try to breathe on a mirror or a window, it gets wet because there's water vapor in your breath. And so that's where our products come from. They come from the process of respiration, using all of these different things. Hope you can see it. Take it in, write it down, commit it to memory, and good luck. I hope this helps you on your test.